Okay, this video is advice on the advice I've been given on my very specific 2004 all-wheel drive Astro van. Not all Astro vans are the same. It's basically the same vehicle. I mean, 20 years, people like to say it's the same vehicle, but I think there's like 3 generations of it. This is the last one, 2003 to 2005, and it's a little different than the earlier one. So if you've got a 93, it's going to have some idiosyncratic differences that I don't know anything about. So probably can't answer your question. I might be able to, I don't know. I just want to point out that everything I know, I'm learning through my own experiences, right? Trial and error, doing a lot of the work myself, finding other people to do things. Yeah, but the big help for me was the internet. And that's the thing that you're utilizing right now to watch me. You're either watching me on your phone or you're watching me on a computer. I recommend the computer because my natural animal magnetism comes through that way. Big screen. Big screen. You want to see this on a big screen. So I was getting these questions this morning, and it was just a funny thing. It made me want to talk about this. I also had to go talk to a mechanic this morning, so I want to share a little bit about dealing with mechanics. But somebody asked me a question about the leaf springs, and a couple questions. One of them was, I don't know the difference between, I don't understand what you mean by 3+1. And you know what? A couple years ago, I might not have understood that either, but I figured it out real easy by just going on the internet and I was looking for S10 leaf springs and typed it in, and then boom, schematics of S10 leaf springs popped up. And you can count them, 1, 2, 3, and a big hunk of steel on the bottom. And it gives you a weight rating for that spring. And I think the 3+1 actually comes in a couple different weight ratings. And then there's a 4+1, even stiffer, which you're not going to probably need for this thing. And you could look at Astro van specific leaf springs, and you'll just see the 3, and you'll see that weight rating. And then common sense and basic intellect, you should be able to extrapolate what that's going to mean for you. And you'll understand why you end up with more lift with that spring, blah, 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 blah. Now, take the time to do that. It's not, I don't mind answering a question, but I don't always have the time, and I'm not complaining at all. Thank you for watching the video. I really do appreciate it, truly. And I hope I'm a help, and I think I am based on the feedback I've been getting. But a lot of times I get the feeling that some of you are in the middle of doing a job and you're asking me for advice in the middle of the job, and I cannot be Johnny on the spot all the time. None of us who do the YouTube videos can be, really. Well, I'm not just sitting there in front of the computer all day. I'm in the shop working. So utilize your internet. You know, get on there and type in what you're looking for, and you'd be surprised. Not necessarily the videos. You should look at videos. It's always a big help. Videos for me can be a bit of a hindrance because, you know, it's all this time talking like I'm doing right now before you get to the point, or the pictures. So you have to understand there's parts places. RockAuto.com, great place for parts. Usually a huge selection for any specific part you want. They're going to give you all the different manufacturers that have that part, and you can click on it, and it's going to show you a picture of that part. It's pretty amazing, and I think they pretty much have the best prices around. So go there. It's a great place for information. If you're on Facebook, go to the Facebook groups too and put a question there. You're not always going to get the best advice or the most accurate advice. I'll give you an example. There's a guy I ride bicycles with, and he's got a ton of experience with rock crawling in a Jeep. A lot of off-road experience, right? He's always got all the recovery gear with him. I told him I want to do onboard air. He recommended me having it separate in a case like he does, because then you can just connect it to the battery. You can bring it to another person's vehicle. I'm going to run an air gun off of mine. It's a whole other story, but that was good advice. He works for a company where they recover busted up vehicles and then they park them out. And he'll get an Astro van or an S10 in from time to time. He's only interested in 4-wheel drive vehicles, so the only Astro van he might get in would be an all-wheel drive. But he said he had some S10 springs. And he did a measurement. We went on a bike ride. He was there. We measured my springs, distance to distance, rear bolt to front bolt. And he goes, oh, well, my springs are a couple inches off. It's not going to work. That was incorrect. He was wrong. And that's okay. because the springs I put in were a couple inches off. I don't remember if they were longer or shorter. I think they were shorter. So, I mean, I think the shackles are slightly adjustable. I know I didn't actually put them in. I paid my mechanic to do it. But the bottom line is that the S10 springs I have came off of a 1998. I had new bushings pressed into them, which I recommend you do as well. If you get old used springs and the bushings are shot, you're kind of defeating the purpose there to a certain extent. Be advised that if you put new bushings in there, they may squeak like mine do, and it is making me a little crazy right now. It's making me crazy. I'm going to fix it though. So just know that there's a little play there. It's not as important as you think it may be. I don't know if the 98 S10 springs are going to fit your 1990 Astro van. I don't know. You're going to have to work that out for yourself between you and your mechanic, which brings me to another thing. My van now is no longer factory spec, right? I did the transfer case swap. It's now 4-wheel drive with a shifter on the floor. It's got aftermarket shocks. It's got the S10 springs. Everything I do to it, I try to do with better parts, an upgraded part, more heavy duty. I'm driving this thing across the country with a load. Be living out of it at different times. I want to avoid future problems. The thing is not every mechanic out there is willing to do an upgrade for you. If you're a mechanic and you're watching this, you know, find a nice way to communicate that to people. If you're not comfortable, just tell them, I'm not comfortable. Or you could say, listen, I can do this for you. It's not factory, so I'm not going to be responsible for any damage this may cause to your vehicle in another area down the road. Just be honest. I'm lucky in LA I found a couple different guys that can help me out. They're willing to do it and everything's fine. And there's a little trial and error there. From time to time I might have to do something a couple times, and I'm paying for that if I'm not doing it myself. You have to understand that going into it. So hopefully you can find people that can help you out to do those upgrades, or you could do them yourself. But just know that a lot of the information is out there already on the internet, and you can find it. It's a lot easier than you realize. Pause this video, open another window, type in something you're looking for, and go for shopping or look at eBay. Or there's so many different ways to shop for a part, and it's not, you don't even have to necessarily be looking to buy it at that moment. But actually, I recommend Amazon. I know people have problems with it politically, but Amazon.com, eBay, Craigslist. You want to look at all these different sources, because if somebody's listing a part for sale, they're going to have different images of it. They're going to have different information written up on it, and then that's educating. You're educating yourself. Oh, look at that. Oh, wait a second. That has 4 bolts. Mine only has 3. Or this or that. You're going to learn something. Go to rockauto.com. Check that out. AutoZone, all of them, pictures will come up with it, either a picture of the actual part or a schematic of it. And then you're going to know. You'll be able to figure things out. And if you're not 100% sure at that point, then at least you have enough information and the proper terminology to ask an educated question to somebody else, which makes it a lot easier for people like me to answer. Sometimes people ask me a question that there's not enough information in the question for me to understand what you really want to know. And then in order for me to, kind of what I'm doing right now, to answer that question, I've got to do this. Well, if you have this, but if you don't, then you got this. But let me know. The more information you give me when you ask a question, the more accurate my answer could be. The way for you to be able to answer, or ask rather, a good question is for you to educate yourself a little bit more first. Don't be lazy. Be a good person. Let's be good to each other. Have a good day. Everything is working out pretty good with this thing. Ball joint flip, they call it, which is really just repositioning. Worked, man. He got that thing back into factory specs. I drove it down to Dana Point this weekend. Took my hands off the steering wheel. Perfectly straight. He was able to get this into factory spec. Very, very happy about that. My only issue with this thing right now is the little bit of squeaking, which that's going to get dealt with. Not a big deal. I dropped the switches and my templates I made for the air conditioning and heating for the rear. That's going in my buddy's van this morning to the mechanic. So I'm going to show that when they do it. We'll do a video on that. We'll put them side by side and it'll be fun. That's the Unicorn van with the 373 gears and the G80 locker. I'm calling it the Unicorn. I know there's quite a few of them out there. This was just the first one I ever saw in person. Be good to one another. I'll see you next time. Bye.